Hey everybody, Brian Trout coming to you from Mossy Creek Fly Fishing with your fly fishing forecast. The date for today is Monday, the 8th of September. So got a lot to get to today. Things are changing and they're changing fast. So let's start off on the river. That's where I've been for it feels like 100 days now. The larger rivers in the state, the James, the Shenandoah, starting to cool down. We've had cold nights. In fact, it was 41 degrees this morning at my house on Mossy Creek. So the last few weeks of the smallmouth season, which is a moving target, right? These are warm water species, so their metabolism is going to slow down quite a bit here in the next few weeks. And I don't know, for the most part, I just tell people sometime first or second week in October, we'll get a real big cold front that comes through, and that will knock a lot of these fish back. So all of the places where you've been catching them this summer, every little nook and cranny, shallow water, deep water, over on this ledge, behind that root wad, those fish will kind of gather up and move into some of the deep, slow pools where they will winter. And so they'll stack in on top of each other, their metabolism will slow down, and the numbers for, as far as fishing goes, will drop off very quickly. So we have a few weeks left. Some of the older fish are absolutely taking advantage of this. They live a long time. They know that they have to eat a lot of food heading into the winter. And then the smaller fish will kind of imitate that and follow them to those deep pools and deep holes. So we've seen some cold fronts come through the last few weeks. When we get a weak cold front in the middle of June or July, it doesn't really knock the bite off that much. Maybe you catch a few less or have some slower follows or some soft eats. But once September comes and we get some really strong northwest winds for 2 to 3 days, it can definitely slow the bite down a little bit. So that, coupled with the river finally getting low and clear, it's taken all summer. We've had really substantially high flows, as most of you know, high dirty water. So all of a sudden, we find ourselves in a situation where the water is finally clear. It's finally low. It's not much below average, but it's just low. This time of year is a historical low for the year. The fish are getting skittish. So they're getting spooky. So, all beginning of the summer, when the water was, stained, we're fishing 12, 15, 16 pound tests, short leaders, to turn over big heavy flies, throwing big stuff at them, moving a lot of. We're at the other end of that spectrum now. So I went this past week to 10-foot leaders. I'm down to 2x, sizing flies down. So instead of using like a number 2 or a number 4 clawdad, I'm using like a size 6. Hits the water a little bit softer and doesn't get hung up as much. The fact that we're even using clawdads quite a bit this time of year is a testament to what's been going on. So we'll back up a little bit. The stargrass, which grows up in all of our streams in the area here, very healthy vegetation, typically grows up in these rivers in mid-June and gets real thick. And what happens is when that stargrass grows up, all of the bait will be able to go into the stargrass and hide. And the stargrass will grow so thick that it'll actually make it impossible for the smallmouth to make their way and swim through it and into it. So it pushes all these fish into channels, into lanes, forces the water into certain places, makes it easier for us to float down in spots. So as those fish stack up and lose access to very free, very easy to get bait, they start having to work harder for their food. And then they'll start jumping out of the river 3 feet in the air to eat a damselfly or chase one random minnow as hard as they can up in the shallows to try and get it. That didn't happen this year. That stargrass didn't grow. It's just like any other plant. It needs sunlight. And the first 2 months of our growing season, the river was deep and the river was mud. So it's not like the stargrass is all gone, but nothing like a normal growing year. And that makes the river a little bit more of a barren landscape too. So it makes these fish spookier. Water's gotten low. There's no grass beds. Bait's just sitting out in the river. So all those lead to a little bit more challenging fishing, right? When they can go and grab a minnow at will, whenever, your fly is a little bit less appealing. All right, so that's kind of the deal. I've been sizing down, fishing smaller suspending patterns, Murdich minnows, things that won't get hung up as easily, stuff that you can fish very slow. So after a cold front, you don't want to be ripping that fly through the water. They're just not going to chase, or at least chase as well as they could. You need stuff that doesn't hit the water real hard. So, you know, if you're fishing a clawhead with lead eyes, you need to make sure it's got a lot of rubber bands on it and hits the water a little bit softer. They're eating topwater, but not like they normally would. Again, when they've been eating on the surface for 3 to 4 months, it becomes part of just like a daily regiment and program. And they weren't doing that this summer for all the reasons that I just mentioned. So it's a very different year. And this is what happens when we have high water years. You get trade-offs, okay? It was a lot harder to spook fish earlier this season. And now it's finally gotten a little bit easier to spook them. So a little bit longer casts, a little bit lighter leaders, size down your fly a little bit. Definitely need long casts, keep that thing down from you. The other thing that happens in September, which is both good and bad, is the shade lines get much bigger, okay? Because the sun angle is getting much lower. So, you know, the fish will push into those shade lines if they don't want to sit out in the sun, like right in the middle of the day. In the bright sun, they'll push into those shade lines. But if the shade line's huge, there's a lot of space for them to be in that shade line. All right. When they're small, they're all kind of stacked up. All right. So anyway, that's kind of what to expect on the river. We've got, you know, more cold nights coming, more high pressure coming. The weather looks beautiful to be outside, but that can also lead to a little bit more challenging fishing. Going to get slightly warmer as the week goes on. And so those warmer days like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if it gets back up in the 80s, those are going to be better days for the bass. So anyway, probably a month left on decent bass fishing before a lot of them get kind of knocked off into their winter lies. We'll keep you up to date on that, but there's nobody out there. So after Labor Day, football's on and kids are back to school, it is nice out there on the river. All right, moving on to the spring creeks. Spring creeks are fishing pretty well. Hex flies are the name of the game. They've been hatching now for 3 to 4 weeks. I expect them to be winding down over the next week or two. But PMX on a silty spring creek or a river like the South River, the last hour of daylight, they just eat them like crazy. Makes the morning fishing tough. Trico's not that desirable when they've been eating, you know, humongous bugs all night into the night. But as soon as that spinner fall begins to dry up, which is going to be another week or two, they will be back on the prowl. And that's when some of the best hopper fishing of the year happens. So we finally got dry. There have been grasshoppers around since June, but they're in the grass, right? They're not in the stream. As it gets dry, a lot of those bugs will make their way down to the stream's edge because streams like Mossy Creek that are, you know, totally different than the air temperature, they get a lot of dew that comes out, and those grasshoppers are attracted to that moisture as things dry up. So inevitably, they'll end up in the creek much, much more. That coupled with some of these windy cold front days, these bugs just start hopping into the creek inadvertently or getting blown in. So a couple weeks, maybe another week or so of good hex fishing in the evening. And then the daytime fishing should pick right back up. Fish should be on the prowl a little bit looking for some food. So anyway, that's what we got going on the spring creeks. Up in the mountains, the waters are low and clear, and starting on windier days to get some leaf litter going. So there are brook trout opportunities out there. Hopefully we'll get some more rain here, but you know, after a fantastic summer of fishing for them through much of the summer, things have finally gotten skittish and low. So if you're going to go, you got to just find moving water. That's the key. Those glassy pools where the water is super still, you can barely get a false cast in without spooking them. Long leaders, light tippets, 6X, 12-foot leaders, 14-foot leaders. Be sneaky, get down on your hands and knees, stay low, and look for wave trains and riffles. Anywhere where the water's moving, that'll help provide cover, which will protect you. And those are food funnels, which they're going to be lined up in. So hopefully we get a little more rain so you can brook trout fish. Fall brook trout fishing is great up until spawn time, which will be later next month. So as far as the water temps up in the mountains, they're great. And as far as spawn goes, it's not going to be until later October. So really what you're contending with up right now is just really spooky fish. So if you want to get up there, you can. You just got to be sneaky. All right. That's about it for now. The state is going to be out in full force in a couple weeks, stocking fish. So we'll bring you updates on, delayed harvest streams and when they open and all that good stuff. So we're pretty close to that time frame, and that's about it. Enjoy this nice, crisp fall weather. Get out there and catch a few more fish before the warm water rivers start to get tough. All right, we'll catch you all back here next week. Thanks.